Ceri Jones.
Of him now, and I know he's going to take them spent. Next thing I spot him, he's took one, he's took a second. I fired a full line down, landed it about probably 15 foot in front of him, and it was like slow motion. I thought he was never going to go down. He went up and he comes slow motion, took him about 3 seconds to go down over it, and when I let him down, I said I'm going to give him another second even. Well, I was down his throat. Well, I lifted in. Well, it didn't take him long to go to the back end because he hadn't much of it. And the next thing I had to start the engine and all. He took out 30 yards of back and nearly to the end of the back end. Hello.
Hello, Darren.
Good man, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Well, many thanks for joining me.
No problem.
I heard you've had a good couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know. I've had a great time in Lough Melvin there lately, in the Champions of the Lough competition. There, it was held in Rossinver. So there was a qualifier, 3 different qualifiers, and then the final was on the Sunday. So it was brilliant to win it. I won it 2 years in a row now. It's absolutely unbelievable on my home water. So
I've noticed actually that you won it last year as well. I couldn't remember. I remember seeing you had a boat somewhere last year, but it was on Melvin and on this competition then.
It was, yeah. It's crazy because your home waters, there's not too many boats come up. Only the Garrison Open is kind of the one, and then this competition's just new, come out, catch and release competition, and it's a really, really good one because it opens up the whole lake. And I suppose I was lucky enough that I got over the line, you know. So no, definitely it was excellent. The conditions suited me well too. So the qualifier, I qualified on the Friday. Now, I suppose I have a good knowledge of the lake, so I knew roughly how many fish would get you over the line, and then I started trying. Myself and my partner went out at the time, and both of us qualified. He actually ended up winning the heat, so he had 4 and I had 3. But we got them midday, kind of, and then we kind of went around practicing. I told him basically we'd go and have a wee look around the areas to get ready for the final, and that's what I basically did. And I built up a bit of knowledge of just places that I know from fishing when I was 14 and 15 years old, that were the fishing, were they not, was there fly life, was there fish taken fly. Like on the qualifier, I was watching fish taking mayfly in front of me. I could have cast and caught them, and I literally drove by them and said, I'll get you on Sunday morning. And one of them fish I actually did. I got him on Sunday.
Did you?
Now it took me 2:00 in the day to get him, but I got him. So I just, a bit of practice helped definitely, and a bit of knowledge, you know, on the lake.
How many did you have on the day then on the final?
So on the final, I came in with 6. I had six fish. It's actually some lovely trout I came in with. You know, I had a couple of trout up to a pound and a quarter. You know, which is a big fish for Melvin. You know, the limit's normally around 11 inches. So yeah, no, good. Mostly all on mayfly method. You know, wet flies. You know, and yeah, no, good bag.
What was any of those fish Sonahan, or are they just all browns?
And so the way the competition was, it's as is catch and release. It was any trout counted. So whether it was a brown trout, a Sonahan, a Ferox, a Gillaroo, any trout counted. You measured the fish and you took a picture of it, and you took the time and you verified it with the angler that was with you in the boat. And so I got a mixed bag, and that was probably the big benefit for me, was I got areas going that in that final day, the wind actually went down in the middle of the day, and I knew the area I was on was going to switch off for that period of time. So I was able to leave that area, go to another area and catch a few Sonahan. And then when the wind got up again, I went down and fished some of the shores again and the drop-offs and some of the mainland points and stuff, and just worked my way home, you know.
Yeah.
And so, no, it was brilliant. Like it's like when I suppose when you're used to fishing a lake and you're familiar from it from your young age, as I said, somebody asked me, when did you do your practice for this? When I was 16 and 17 years old, that's when I done my practice for this competition, because the fish don't move, they stay in the areas. And so, no, it was good. It was just making sure that they were there and moving around,
You were brought up beside Melvin, you were local to there then?
Yeah, well, so I suppose I was fortunate where my father he's been a guide all through from I was young, and he's been a very successful angler in competitions and won the World Cup. He's won basically nearly everything, but he had a tackle shop. So from a very young age, literally like 3 years old, I was in a boat. I was fishing on the shore. I think I got my first fish when I was 7, and I remember actually catching him on a bubble and fly. And Dad has a picture. I ran the whole way when I had fish on the hook. I ran from catching them right up into the shop. There was 10 or 12 boys in the shop. Everybody was laughing at me. I thought, why are they laughing at me? Because I've caught my first fish. But they were just laughing because the fish was still alive. So we had to actually go back out and put the fish back in to the river. There was only literally the river was only 20 yards away from the shop. So it was that, I was that crazy from such a young age to catch my first fish. And then I suppose I built up fishing on my own on the river, and then Dad used to come down and give me a wee bit of guidance. And then when I got to about 10, which is still very young, I know, but I started to fish a lot in the lakes with Dad. And then the first thing he did was learn me how to row, and then I started to learn how to fly fish. And then I learned a range of different fishing. So me and Dad was fishing competitions from when I was a very young age. So
I guess that made a difference, because it takes something when you're catching fish, and then when you know it's going to go difficult, to move away from where you caught them. Just having the confidence then to move away and look for other fish. I actually fished Melvin at an international there some years ago, and we had practice days, and on the practice days we had I lost count how many fish. It was perfect conditions, big rolling waves, and we just fishing team of wets, and I was having 2-3 Sonahan on a cast, and it was this is brilliant. And as soon as we drift past them, we go back around, you might catch them again. And I was busting with confidence on the international then. And on that day, it was flat calm then. Totally unexpected,
Melvin is one of these lakes. It's a challenging lake because you can go out on a practice day and be so confident.
Yeah.
And yet on the day you go out, you're like, gosh, you're looking at 4 flies working, and the fish aren't up in that area. But the key to that then is knowing, right, well, they're not up there, but they might be up in an hour's time or a half an hour. So, you need to have a few places. You can't just rely on one location on Melvin. I would say I done 20 places, wee short places in the day of the final day in that competition, to be honest. And I moved around, and some of them were absolutely no good at all. And some of them I went into and I was like, I'm too early here. I need to leave it. Actually, on the final day, the weird thing about it was me and Dad went to the exact same place at the exact same time. And I was about literally 45 seconds before him. And I got into the spot just in front of him and nailed the fish. And he was just shaking his head, looking, laughing, because the two of us literally knew the place would go on at a certain time. Yeah. And we went to it. And that's just, that's the thing about Melvin. But it is a challenging lake. There's no doubt about it. You need to... You be prepared to blank in it dirty, you know what I mean, no matter how good you are in it. That's the way that the Melvin is. Them Sonahan, they're very similar to the masked fish in the deep. They feed a lot on Daphne, so they're a hard fish to catch and keep on unless you're on a big shoal, which isn't as common anymore. Years ago, there was a lot of big shoals. You could fish the same shoal the whole day nearly, but it's just a bit different now, I don't know, is it to do with feeding patterns or what, but...
When you changed the area, did you change methods as well, or you just stuck at the same?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I did. Right. I did. I took off 3 flies. I was fishing 4 flies on the day. I actually took 3 flies off to... because I was fishing close to shore, so I was going out in the deeper water, so it was after Sonahan. They weren't going to take the flies that I was fishing before. I had other flies that I was more confident in, and that was the key. the shorelines in Melvin, they're more prone to take mayfly patterns and that kind of stuff, where on the deep they can take a bit more colour and a bit more flashier flies, So that was the key for that,
Yeah. Do you get much time, because I know you're big into your competition scene, do you get much time to actually fish for pleasure as well? Because it takes up a lot of time with practice as well in comps, doesn't it?
Well, lately in the last couple of years I have, because before now I was fishing a lot of internationals. I'd done 8 internationals in a row, and that took up a serious amount of time. And then obviously I got married there to my lovely wife Katie, and she we were we had building a house, getting a house sorted, all that there, but in the middle of doing the internationals and all, so that was very busy. But since that now, I've had a lot more time since I haven't been just doing the internationals for the last couple of years. I took a bit of a break there, and I've been getting a lot more pleasure fishing out of it. Yeah, so like I do a lot in Corrib and Mask and Sheelan and Melvin. They're my go-to really lakes, and then I do a wee bit of mountain fishing too, and then this time of year I might go to do a wee bit of salmon fishing, but I do mix it up. No, I do. Definitely, if you do a lot of competitions, you do tend to have to do your practice days, maybe on a lake that you're not really, it mightn't even be fishing. So, but look, I suppose that's the love of the competition. The great thing about the competition, though, I always say, is that you're fishing against good anglers and you only can learn, and even if you have a bad day, you've learned something for the next day. And that's the way I look at it, is that I still would always say to people, fish competitions, because if you're not a good angler, you learn. You can be out with someone and you only gain information. I remember when I was young going to Corrib, and the learning curves I got in competitions, getting hammered by people, was so important to me now, which it brings you up to a different level, So no, it's good to get the balance of between pleasure. Now, the one thing about, as my father would always say, when you go out in a competition, you're a different way of fishing than when you're in a pleasure day.
When you're pleasure fishing, sometimes you should change, but you're just so comfortable. You want to try different things. But I think you're more regimented when you're fishing a comp. You've got to just be switched on. But you mentioned pleasure fishing, and you mentioned the Mask. I fished the Mask last weekend before last actually, and it's the first time I fished it in a good few years. And I fished a fly, which again has come from the competition scene, and probably everybody knows about it, is the claret dabbler. And I had quite a few fish, and it's unbelievable. You wouldn't think really of fishing claret dabbler booby, rather. And it's the last thing coming from the UK. You'd want to fish a booby on a floating line over here, but obviously it did the trick. It's a popular fly,
yeah,
isn't it?
No, the boobies have come into play big time now, I suppose over the last 10 years, but I suppose they've really got into the open now in the last few years. But yeah, no, they're very good for bringing up fish. They're very good for catching some fish, and I suppose there is a method to it. They can be fished in a range of lines, not necessarily just a floating line, but they're very, very good, and they work very well in Mask. Yeah, definitely do. And when people starting to like Jackie Mahan was tying, he tied a fantastic mayfly booby for us for the international, which was a massive success for us at the Melvin. So the boobies in general, for a lot of the lakes, especially Daphne also, has really come to part now in the last couple of years. Yeah, definitely.
Your ears must have been burning last week, actually, because I was talking about you. Your name came up. I was fishing Lough Arrow, and who I was talking to was Colin Dodd. You were his boatman. Was it last week or week before?
I was in the National. I boated Colin in the National. Yeah, that's right.
There was a different rules for that. You had to put...
It was Sonahan. But he had his chances on the day now. I put him over a few fish, and we went into an area where the man that won the competition was sitting next behind us, and he was just unlucky. I think he fished really well. He's a good angler and fished hard and had a good cast of flies on that I would have been happy with myself. And he was just unlucky. He had one chance, a kind of a 10-minute period where he could have made the Irish team or blanked. And that's basically, and he knew it after it. I said to him, we're going to get a rattle here now down at this wee hot spot that we went into. And the two lads got ready, and both of them could have got on the Irish team in 10 minutes. And both of them lost their fish. And they actually, Colin had a couple plunging on the top and lost them. So he was unlucky, unlucky. But that's the way it goes, I suppose.
It's a thin line, isn't it? One fish can make a difference.
We were just saying that, like, because, there's sometimes you fish a competition and I fished a competition this year, came second, and literally I had my full line sitting on the bottom of the boat for the whole day, waiting on that one cast to come on Lough Erne, and I threw the full line out, landed it on probably a metre to the left of him at a full line, and he swallowed me about £3 and on a spent during the day. And Dad was laughing because Dad was like, that was a good cast. And it is important that you get that one chance or maybe a couple of chances, and that will make your day, whether it's a pleasure day or a competition day, so it's a bit of luck too to get your chances, when they come.
Didn't you have a good fish in Arrow this year?
No, I had a good fish on Sheelan. I had an 8-pound 14 ounce on the spent knot.
Nice.
Yeah, I weighed him and put him back. Oh, he was a beautiful fish. I was actually on the phone to my friend Kevin Kern, and I said to Kevin, I'm going to have to go, Kevin. I'm after seeing a monster. And he started laughing. He goes, he says, well, I hope you get him. And I turned the phone off, and I says, right, I could see him. He was about 60 metres in front of me. And I could see about 10 spent to the left-hand side, about 30 yards away, full line away. And I says, right, he's going to head for that slick. So I turned the boat so that I was pointing the front of the boat at the fish, upwind of him. And I says, right, I need to get this fly way in the distance of him now, and I know he's going to take them spent. Next thing I spot him, he's took one. He's took a second. I fired a full line down, landed it about probably 15 foot in front of him. And it was like slow motion. I thought he was never going to go down. And he went up, and he comes slow motion. Took him about 3 seconds to go down over it. And when I let him down, I said, I'm going to give him another second even. Well, it was down his throat. Well, I lifted in. Well, it didn't take him long to go to the back end because he hadn't much of it. And the next thing, I had to start the engine and all. He took out 30 yards of back and nearly to the end of the back end. Realised I didn't even have enough backing on me reel at the time. And brilliant fight, absolutely cracking fish, and landed him in lovely after about maybe 10 minutes of fighting and put him back then. Absolutely delighted. That was my biggest fish on Sheelan to date.
Stunning.
So it was a stunning fish to get on the dry fly.
I think a lot of people have struggled though. Have you had good days?
How's it been for you? Sheelan has been tough. Look, the weather wasn't great either now. It's a lot of hot spells and there was just that much fly. There was a serious hatch of fly on Sheelan this year, which it's hard to I got a few on the nymphs too. I was lucky enough one day I booked off work on a Monday, and it fished for me. Now I got 4 that day on the nymphs, and that was good. But like Sheelan's one of those lakes. It's a tough lake at the best of times. People, I suppose years ago, people were nearly getting too good at fishing in it, and it's always been a tough enough lake. A few years it fished very well in the nymphs there, but this year I think the conditions probably didn't help it either, and this year didn't get much boat pressure, but the fish didn't really come up on the spent, which was strange. When the big falls came, there was just small volumes of fish. And matter of fact, there was one night I was out and I never even got to cover a fish. And so that's the way it goes. But look, a lot of lakes is strange like that at the moment in the Mayfly. Arrow was tough going too in the Mayfly. My father was on it a lot, and but there was still fish to be caught. Look, at every lake there's a few fish to be caught. It's just it's having a bit of luck and getting there in the right time, and I suppose if you fish the lake hard, you're going to get your few chances,
I had a few days last year on it, and it blew me away. it was like biblical, isn't it? Seeing the Mount the Mayfly. And
look at the fly hatch is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It really is.
I will fish it this year. I haven't got around to doing it yet. I was waiting for the nod for someone to say, "Oh, look, it's starting to fish." But the weather one on our side, and I got to be honest, I think I spent a lot of time on the Corrib since was in March, and I think it's been the worst May I've ever had. It was flat calm for half of May, like the Mediterranean, and so hot, and you're just picking off the odd fish. I haven't fished most days. We were praying for wind, and all of a sudden we had this wind, and I thought, this is it now. But you were motoring up the wind, and the water was coming you, and it was like being in a bath. And I thought, this isn't good. And I came in off the boat, and there was two fishery officers. They come up to me, they just random checks for undersized fish. Anyway, they said, I said, oh, that water's warm. He said, well, we've just come from Galway Weir, and it was 22 degrees. So that didn't work out then, so it wasn't great for me, but I've been since, and I've had some nice fish, and I've started back on the trolling now for the ferrox. But I'll be down this week to back on the fly as well now.
But the Corrib is a fantastic fishery that, I absolutely love it. I spend a lot of time down there in spring for the duckfly and the me, myself and Jean won the Uachtarard competition this year, is the pairs one, and that was so I done a lot of practice for that, and I'll be honest with you now, I had an absolutely fantastic duckfly this year, and I know a lot of people didn't, but it seemed like I just hit it right, and it was a bit of luck now more than anything else, but I was on the water. There was one day I was on it on a Saturday. It was a gale force wind, and I was with Anthony Tracy. There wasn't another boat. We seen one boat for the rest of the day at Trollers, and we literally, every single duck hole I went to, in the big wind, fish going, they were willing to take, whether it was subsurface flies or it was buzzers or whatever, and we had a great day's crack, and kind of from that day, I just seemed to hit Corrib really well this year, and I had some good fishing, really, really good fishing in the camp out this year.
Nice when it comes together. There was one day in the end of Feb, I think it was beginning of March, I went down towards Saddle and Marker 50, those areas. And even as early as end of Feb, beginning of March, I had fish on the buzzers, but there was so much olive on the water, right? And the fish were coming up the olive, but I ignored them. I just stuck with the buzzers, I find olive fishing is hard. It's probably the hardest hatch to imitate for me. I just stuck with the buzzers, and I did all right then.
Yeah, the olive is a tricky. It's probably myself and my dad has done a lot of practicing for competitions and lakes with olives, trying to get them right, and it is very, very tricky. Yeah. It is but I love it because it's tricky. I spent a few days this year on mask, and I love it though. I love that trickiness of it, and either it's dry olive or subsurface, and the weird thing is you could be casting at fish moving on olives, and next thing you're like, oh no, they're on dries, and then you get one on a dry, and next thing you look around and goes, oh no, they're back on the nymphs. Yeah. So they do change. And I've caught fish with dries and nymphs, but yet you cover him with a dry and he won't take you. Then you switch to nymphs, you go back up the drift and he hammers you on the nymph. So, and your fly, you're so important too. Oh, your fly is very, very important, and the way it sits in the water. And there's a lot of different things, the olive is definitely probably one of the trickiest things of all.
Do you tie yourself?
Oh, I do a lot of tying. I used to do a lot of tying for the shop when we had the shop when I was back young. I tying gorgeous Georges when they were going out first. I remember tying crazy thousands and thousands in the summer just for pocket money. And when I was 12 and 13, now I would tie just for myself really, and for a few of my friends and my team. We team, the Melvin Hoppers. I tie a few for the lads and stuff. But apart from that, so I love tying. Oh, tying to me is brilliant. That you have your own wee patterns, and somebody give you a fly and you might add some wee thing to it, it's class, especially when you have flies that work really well. And you say you have an edge, but not really. Do you have an edge? You sometimes question that, but in your opinion, you do, because you're going out and you have that fly and you know what's working, and you know it's a great thing. Like, and I love whether it's buzzers or nymphs or dialbacks or crunchers or whatever it is.
I can hear in your voice the passion you've got for it. I know you said you started at a young age fishing. Was it 10? But when did you get into the competition fishing?
Well, so my father was massive into competitions, and he comes across as a very polite, kind man, so he is. But when he went into a boat, it was like a switch came on him, and it was like, we're going to win this competition. He is an absolute, like, not just because of my father, a guru on fishing. Like, in the scale of winning, there's nothing he hasn't won, really. You know, he's been
We'll have to
there
have a chat
as
with him one day.
Definitely, yeah. No, like he's one of these old characters that he has that older generation. He's 64, but still he has that where he's been guiding on all these lakes for years, and he's seen it, the good and the bad of them, and he's a big man for the Kelly Kettle, like yourself there, and the Cook Up, and
I'm all for that.
And he loves we were big into that on the pleasure days. Like, we were so competitive, but yet, like, I didn't tell the story, but it was a great one. We won a competition one day, me and Dad. We ate fish on the Lough Corrib, and we had net the whole day, and we literally cleaned the fish out on the shore. We had tinfoil, we had 5 slices of toast or bread, we had butter, and we had tea. And we got the tinfoil, we lit a fire, the spent started to dance. We put the trout in the sheets, filleted the trout, put them into the tinfoil, a double layer, treble layer of tinfoil, put the butter in with them, cooked the trout on the tinfoil, put the bread then into it, let it melt down into it, like, and got it like toasted bread. And we sat there eating the fish, and we were actually watching trout feeding in front of us, and we were like, no, I'm not even going to cover these. This is just paradise here. And we were eating the bread with the trout and the melted butter, and it was just class. And I remember sitting there with Dad, and it was just like, this is why we fish. Like, this is just class what we're doing right now. And the sun was going down, and the spent was going out, and the trout were going, and Dad says, like, we were doing a couple of casts in the evening after. Nearly the whole thing was so finished by the time we got back out. But we were like, we didn't care. It was class.
If you're enjoying this podcast and want to listen to more, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you get weekly podcasts and access to over 200 episodes, plus behind-the-scenes photography and other exclusive content. Visit patreon.com/casting with Ceri Jones. Plus, if you fancy booking me for a day's guiding on the Corrib, give us a shout or visit thecorrib.com.
So me and him used to fish pairs competitions when I was young, and I never really knew anything else, only literally winning the competition. So whether we had to do a week's practice on that lake, I remember go down to a competition, I actually can't remember, it was down the west. We done a week and we blanked in the competition. I think it was the par 3 at the time. We done a week of practice and we blanked on the day of the competition. We were disgusted, the two of us. But that's the way we used to just, and Dad says, look, it just didn't go for us and move on. But it was always that, we always had that, I suppose it was the willing to do well and work it out for yourself. And like, I never really, Dad always had the impression that you don't ask any questions. You go and work it out yourself. Nearly don't ask a person, is the lake fishing, find it out for yourself.
Exactly.
Go to the areas, work out areas. People be seeing me in areas going, what's he doing there? But I'm sussing, I love to suss out the whole lake and build up a picture from my own head, because there's sometimes a place that people think, oh, sure, there's no fish there, but there could be plenty of fish in that area. It's just we could be fishing the wrong methods or this and that. So I suppose when I was young, I learned that to get that wee bit of competition, and then we started to do a lot of competitions around Lough Melvin, a lot of wet fly competitions. Lough Corrib was our home lake for the mayfly, and then I got into the internationals. I suppose when 2017, I remember I'd fished a lot of competitions and I'd done reasonably well in competitions up to a point, and then I said, look, somebody mentioned to me, said you'd never fished for Ireland, and I kind of never thought about it. Up to that, I was never fished the Utes. I was too busy fishing and guiding on the lakes, and was doing a wee bit of football too. But I remember saying to myself, Jesus, I'll have to do that. So then I won the national on the first time I tried. I done a practice day on Ewell with one of my best friends now, who I met that day, Luke O'Connell, and we done a practice together, and it was so easy for me, that lake. At the time, it was just, I had flies working from another lake for catching stock brownies, and I had 5 areas going out on the match day, and it was a real tough day, a very wet day, but I done well on the day, and I got on the Irish team, and then I followed it then in the mask that September. I got on the team again, so it kind of went from that, and so I fished, ended up qualifying for 8 internationals in a row.
Did you ever fish the same team as your dad?
Never, no. My dad has never fished an international. He's never even tried. No,
are you very competitive when you actually in the boat together, though?
I'll tell you a story now. We were fishing a competition in the Mayfly, and a lot of people would know this story, but it was a real laugh because the Mayfly was absolutely going crazy on Lough Corrib that day. I'll never forget it. The day before was going crazy too. I remember going down a shore guiding, and the guys picked up 6 fish in one drift on the guiding, and the lad says, "Can we do that again?" I go, "Sorry lads, we're not doing it again." And he was laughing. He says, "You have a competition tomorrow?" I says, "Yeah, I do." And they laughed, and we went to another spot, and we ended up getting a few more, and we would come in with 10. But on the next day, Dad says, "Right, we're going to this spot," and it was just like every fish was up my side, at the front of the boat. So there was a slick at the front of the boat, and every time I was thrown over the fish, bang into him, got another one. And we were fishing actually size 8 dry mayfly, green wolves, dark kind of green wolves. And so I remember saying to Dad, I was 5-0 up on him. Now, this is a pairs competition. I says, "Dad, put on a size 8, because he was fishing 10s, and he lost a fish, and there was silence in the boat. And I was going, "Come here, I'll give you one of the flags." Next thing, silence, and then next thing he hooks the fish, and then he goes, "Aha, I have one now, I don't need your fly." and the funny thing is, I was like, "Oh, hold on, we're in a pairs competition here." So it ended up, we had a fantastic bag. We had 18 fish for the day, so he started to talking to me after he got a few fish then, but it was good crack. But no, he's a very competitive angler, but no, look at it. It's there's a good bit of banter, and it's all about having the crack on a day out, isn't it? Too,
You've been captain as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I was captain for the Irish team in 2022 on Melvin.
It's nice to be on Melvin, I suppose, as well, isn't it?
Oh, it was lovely. Look, it was. It was very big responsibility in relation to the planning the team, because it was all about the teams. You're working to try and get the team fish, which was a bit different for me, where you'd be used to planning yourself and prepping yourself. So my prep started for the competition was years beforehand, and I knew we were going to have to build up a bit of knowledge on the lake again, and obviously having Dad as a guide on it all the time too was a big help. But it was a fantastic thing for a home international, and I was very lucky to be on a few internationals before that, getting gold medals on Menteith and Lochmask, and 2 great captains that were very, very motivated, and it built up a great bit of knowledge for me that where I needed to go and the level that I needed to be to get a gold. And people think so you see Scotland doing well at the moment. There's a lot of work in the background going into these internationals. These anglers they're really good anglers, building up a good team, getting the team going, getting your flies right, getting your areas right, and that planning. And then the mix was my home international, which was the pressure was all on you. Everybody was relying on you to get the areas, have the flies, have everything. Now, I was very fortunate. Jackie Mahan came on board from the start with me and my father, and between the two of them, we started to build up. We were doing testing flies years in advance of the competition. I started to test flies. I remember sitting with Jackie one night having tea, and he tied me a range of flies. I mean, a range of flies with different of this, different of that, and try that. And I was ringing, that didn't work, but this did. And and we were building up flies that was working, and then them flies worked right through to the match day, like, which was really good. But look at it, it's what you put into it. Like, sometimes you have to have a bit of luck on the day, and we did. But the practice was very important, and the club was very good. It was held in the Garrison Lough Melvin Anglers facility there in Garrison, and it's a fantastic facility, you know. And the club was a massive help too for us, and organising the whole international. It was a brilliant for the whole area, my family. You know, it was fantastic. Like, you know, and it was a big showcase for Fermanagh in the county in general. You know,
you've seen them with Scotland doing well lately. It's the Irish youth that are on fire, aren't they?
Oh, the Irish youth lads are brilliant. I'm absolutely, it's fantastic. Like, it's so good to see you. Because I suppose I would have loved it. When I think back now, I would have loved to have done internationals when I was younger. But like, there's two young lads in my fishing club at home now, and they're starting to do the Irish team there now, and it's absolutely class to see them. You know, and it's great to see them so competitive. You know, now they've great management too, and that's brilliant. You know, the lads, they're coaching and they're there a long time, and fair play, they have to get the credit for it. It's fantastic to coach them lads to a level that they can take on the English, Scotland, Wales in their home waters and do well. Is like, that's fantastic. It is. Yeah. It's fantastic.
So what you going to do with all these boats you win in then?
Oh yeah, I know.
Gareth,
I've won 2 Gareth Foley's boats, the Melvin boats. They're brilliant. So no, they're very, very good boats. So look at, I'll have one. I'll have a boat sitting on Lough Melvin now for the whole year. So you're more than welcome to have it any time you want. And,
well, I'll take you up on that. We'll have a day one day or
we'll
one
have
evening.
To get a day's fishing somewhere, either in Sheelan or Melvin or wherever, or Corrib or whatever it is.
Do you ever? I was going to ask, have you still got the hunger for it? Like, you know, with the competition scene, you know, after a while, you know, a lot of anglers, they sort of, you know, they come out of it then. But I can still hear it in your voice. You're still into it. Are you going to fish? Are you in the international next year?
I probably will go back maybe next year back into it again. You know, just I wanted a few years to, you know, I suppose with get married and everything else, you know, there's a lot of commitments there. And the thing about me is when I go to an international, it's not just you land there on the week and you're sitting. I would be the type of person who would do a lot of preparations for it. You know, as I say, I fish the way I work. It's you know, you're full on and you get involved in it and you want everybody to do well in it. So, you know, definitely, like, competitions, I think they're fantastic, to be honest. I think I had a lad out there last week on Melvin, and a guy from Westport, and he was just telling me, he says, I've learned so much today with you. And I was looking, going, what did you learn? But he did, because he was seeing what I was doing and the way I was fishing and the way I was running the water. And he was just saying, you know, gee, that was fierce benefit to me, because then he was thinking about them fishing the mask. And, you know, the way I look at it is you're benefiting not just yourself going in a competition, you're helping other people and you're building up other people's knowledge. And, you know, even if you had a good day, that lad's going, well, I was out with Darren Maguire, he had a good day doing this, and then I've tried it and then he does well doing that. And, you know, and that to me is the bit of crack and the bit of hunger. I definitely still have hunger for competitions, there's no doubt about it. Now, I just lost a wee bit for the internationals up to a point, but I'll be back. I'll definitely come back. And
you mentioned mask again then. Now, I've been out of the competition scene for a number of years now, but there's one competition I might do this year, get back into it, and it's something which I know you haven't won. And that's the World Cup.
My dad tells me that every couple of weeks because he's won it. Yeah, the World Cup. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic competition. The World Cup. It's. I've had a few close calls, and it makes me shiver. Even some of the calls I've had, so close, but you know, that's what makes you go back. Like, you know, we were just my father and me done a call last night, and he was writing notes about Mask, about the World Cup and planning flies and this, that, and the other. So, like, you know, he's 64 and he's still thinking about where he's going to try and do his practice for it and what the plan would be and this, that, and the other. So, look, at the World Cup's a great one where you have the full range of anglers all around Ireland. Maybe some in Scotland, some in England and Wales come over and they really go at it. And it is anybody's game, to be honest. It is a very challenging one, no matter what you do.
Well, you never know. I might be drawing with you in the final. That'd be something.
Oh, well, we have to qualify first, and that's the hardest part now.
Yeah. Do you actually fish the rivers these days? I know you said you started.
I was on the river there last week. I fish a wee bit of nymphs and dries and small wee rivers. I actually fish a bit of mountain lakes too. So myself and Martin McCoy and a couple other lads, my father was and Tizzy was on a wee lake up in the mountains in Garrison. So we were fishing for the Peters there last week, and it was good crack. We got a few fish each, and I do like that bit. It was a nice walk up to it and stuff like that. But we I do like that wee mix of stuff. Now, I haven't really got into the rivers. I do a wee bit of nymphing and stuff and my own pleasure, and, you know, fish up to about 12 inches, I suppose. But I love it. I really enjoy it. Like, I actually get a real good kick out of it. It was like my challenge last week was to go out with a size 16 and dry fly, one fly, and just fish all the pools. So I fished for about an hour and 45 minutes before we had a fishing meeting, and I must have had about 20 fish. It was absolutely class for the evening. And they were all rising fish in these wee pools and wee streams in a wee small, you know, wee river up in Fermanagh. Like, so, no, I do. I love the wee mix of stuff, and it's interesting. It's a totally different style to the lake, but I do always say, like, I fished with some good river anglers in internationals, and they've brought a serious amount to the table in internationals. Very technical,
yes, especially
in your fly tying and their materials. You know, their flies is very technical too. You know, so I thought it's definitely something I want to do more of. Probably, you know.
I've got one more question on, which I ask everyone, and you probably know what it is. Where would you want to be to make your last cast? I've thought long and hard about this, but I have to say now, and Gene Harn will probably say the very same thing, one of my best friends, it would be Corrib. The buzzer fishing on Corrib to me is just, I absolutely love it. I look at it, see that time of the year around the last week in April or May or even the duckfly. It's just, if I'm sitting, there's certain wee hot spots I have in Corrib, and wee drop offs at the side of a rock, and there's this one wee spot that I won the commercial on a couple of years ago, and if I was just thrown at the edge of that rock there and just watching the buzzers going down, and I just know he's there, and that's the exact spot I would be going to for my last cast, because I nearly could tell you what weight he was. And it's so weird because no one else really knows it that well, so it's kind of like it's my own wee hotspot, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
And it's just, so that to me, definitely my last cast anyway.
Many thanks, Darren.
No problem. It's good to talk to you.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to listen to more, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you get weekly podcasts and access to over 200 episodes, behind the scenes photography to go with each episode, plus other exclusive content and prizes. To become a Patreon, visit patreon.com/casting with Ceri Jones, or you can find the link on my website, castingwithcerijones.com. That's all for now. Tight lines, and may they always be up in the wave.